Everyone take a seat, please. Well, welcome everyone to my final full council in this chair. And first of all, I'd like to thank Madam Sheriff, Councillor Pam Tracy, for stepping in for me last month when I was unwell. I watched the live stream and saw what a great job you did, Pam. But then, after more than 30 years' experience in this chamber, I would expect nothing less of you. So well done, and thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
Great job.
I did have the full council behind me as well.
You did.
And my team up here.
Of course. Thank you. So, we are going to start with apologies. Oh no, we read the commencement of the live stream first, don't we? I do beg your pardon. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of a meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may also be used for training purposes. Anyone else recording or filming from within the room must not obstruct the view of the councillors, officers, the public and press, and that flash photography must not be used unless this has been agreed beforehand. I ask that we are respectful to one another in debate during the course of this meeting. I would also like to remind fellow councillors to have regard for the 7 principles of public life, also referred to as the Nolan Principles, which are also set out in the Council's adopted Code of Conduct. These are selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. So we now move on to apologies. We've received apologies from Councillors Bell, Bohemia, Evans, Graham and Vidaholt. And we've also received apologies from Councillor Marshall because she has just given birth to a little girl. So can we offer her our warmest congratulations? Congratulations, Rosanna. That's wonderful news. So we now move on. Oh, so sorry.
I just have apologies from Councillor Sarge Patel and Councillor Kate Highland.
Thank you. Those are noted. Councillors Highland and Patel. Any other apologies? No? Okay. We're going to move on then. So, minutes. We have to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of February. Are you all happy with those? Any problems? Any notes? Anything? Okay. So all in favour say aye. 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 Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? Any hands going up? No. Can't see any. Okay. So we move on to item 4, which is call over. I will read out the agenda items that are available to be reserved for discussion this evening. If you wish to reserve any items for discussion, please indicate by raising your hand. So we have item 9, climate change strategy. Councillor Field. Item 10, treasury management strategy. No, okay. Item 11, pay policy statement 2025 to 26. Okay. And item 12, designation of Chief Finance Officer. Okay. So in that case, just item 9 has been reserved for discussion. And I now call upon the Leader of the Council to move a motion to ask Council to approve the recommendations of those reports that have not been reserved for discussion. Councillor Hilton, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I so move.
And do you have a seconder? Councillor Wilson, thank you. So is everything approved? All happy with that? All say aye. Aye. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so we have no public questions that have been submitted. So we move on to petitions and deputations. And we also have had no petitions or deputations submitted. Not been notified of any of those. So we now move on to announcements. And I think it's me first. Okay. Well, the first thing I'd like to announce is the fact that we have received a letter from the Nelson Mandela Foundation, and this is in response to the 150th anniversary of Henley's poem Invictus. I'll read you the letter. We are delighted to write to you to mark the 150th anniversary of the poem Invictus being written by one of your city's most notable sons, William Henley. Invictus is special to the foundation as it was read by Nelson Mandela while in incarceration, and its words helped to sustain Mr. Mandela during that time. The foundation holds a number of items relating to Invictus in its archives. Invictus is also the title of a movie that tells the story of how Mandela rallied behind the South African rugby team during the Rugby World Cup competition of 1995. We hope that the words Invictus will inspire your citizens in the same way that they inspired Mr. Mandela. With our very best wishes, yours sincerely, Ms. Razia Saleh. So that's just to share with you that very special anniversary being marked. The second announcement is about the second civic event, which you, I think, have all been notified about, which is Johnny Coppin at St Barnabas Hall in Tuffley on the Saturday, the 17th of May. Doors open at 7 o'clock. And the show starts at 7:30. Tickets are £20 or £10 for under 16s. And it would be really nice if as many of you as possible could support that, as you did with the previous event, to support the civic charities this year. It's been a very busy time for the Civic Party recently, especially last weekend. On Friday, we held a Freeman ceremony here, and one of the 9 recipients was a wonderful lady aged 101. On Saturday, we attended a service of commemoration at St Mary de Lode and took the salute for the Back Badge Parade on the steps of Shire Hall. And on Sunday, of course, it was the civic service at the cathedral. Thank you to everyone who attended and to those who made it so special and memorable for me, including the choir and musicians, readers and singers, the clergy team and the Guildhall staff for providing refreshments afterwards. My only disappointment was that there were so few councillors present, only 12 out of 39, including myself and Madam Sheriff. So just about a quarter of us were there. Of course, we understand the many valid reasons for absence, but some councillors are simply choosing not to be there. Now, these civic occasions are unique to Gloucester's history and heritage and valued by its people. Such events provide rare opportunities for your ward residents to see you representing them publicly on the streets of the city. And this is part of your role as a councillor, in my view. So I urge you, all of you, to bear that in mind and please give the incoming mayor as much support as possible in the year ahead. Thank you. So now we move on to announcements from Leader of the Council, Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two announcements. First of all, to let you know, on the 21st of March, a letter was sent to Jim McMahon by 7 leaders of the 7 councils in Gloucestershire, that's the 6 districts and the county council, to just let the Minister know that we're working on looking at local government reorganisation in Gloucestershire. There's 3 main proposals. One is a single unitary across the whole of Gloucestershire. The other one is a split unitary into 2 areas in the county. And the third one is based on the Greater Gloucester map and model. They're all being worked through. We've also asked the Minister for £3.6 million, which is what we think collectively the cost of local government reorganisation will be for the 7 councils that are involved in it. I think the work will start in earnest after the county council elections. I think when we've got a new administration, or we know what the administration at Shah Hall, that's going to help. We have to put proposals in by the 28th of November. And we've already had a letter back acknowledging our submission on the 21st of March, but the big submissions won't be until the 28th of November. And I suspect there might be more than one proposal coming forward from Gloucestershire, because I don't think it's possible to get a unanimous agreement amongst members from all over the county. The other one is that the Shared Prosperity Fund, we got about £486,000. I have just agreed with the officers how we should share that out. So that's on 13 projects, and these are supporting young entrepreneurs, city centre wayfinding signage, a gardening team to improve small green spaces, advice to startups and small businesses, a scheme to address empty shops, support for those who struggle to access digital technology, a project looking at attracting students to Gloucester, development of major celebratory cultural programme, that's to mark the 200th anniversary of Gloucester Docks. There's money for that, money for funding the Gloucester Nature Park, for future vision of the Museum of Gloucester, a new cultural strategy for the city, so we're funding the work on developing that as well from the funding, improving city centre shop fronts, and also the biggest one of the lot, which will take the biggest chunk of money, is master planning the city of Gloucester, particularly looking at the Eastgate Street area as a deep dive there, and also around Northgate Street, but all these sort of sites around the county where we're looking at what might be their future, where they're not being used or utilised as well as they could be, or where there's redundant buildings on site. So we'll be doing that master planning, employing a team of experts to work on that over the next 6 to 8 months and provide us with a report back to council. So those are the projects that have been funded by the UK Shared Prosperity Fund for this year. It's a one-off money, so we don't know whether we're going to get it again. It was something that was introduced by the last government over a 3-year programme. This is just a single-year programme. Those are 2 announcements I've got, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. So we move on now to members of the Cabinet. Councillor Courtney.
I'm excited to announce that the Moomins have landed in Gloucester. And for anyone who's unfamiliar with the Moomins, I've brought a book along. You're welcome to have a flick through later if you want to familiarise yourself. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the first Moomin story that was written by Tove Jansson. And to celebrate this anniversary, 4 cities in the UK have been chosen to host the celebrations, and Gloucester is just one of them. So there's going to be a whole host of activities. There's going to be, we're partnering with, the Moomins are partnering with Counterpoint Arts and Refugee Week, and they're going to commission 4 artists to create 4 public artworks. So we'll have one of those. The artworks will appear in May and June, but around that, there's going to be a whole load of other community programming as well, artwork, entertainment, activities around Gloucester Docks, the museum and the Guildhall. And the activities are kicking off this weekend. So the Moomin ABC exhibition opens this weekend. Lorraine and I went for a sneak preview earlier and it is fab. We didn't want to leave, did we? But, you know, we couldn't miss this, obviously. So, yeah, urge you all to enjoy and get involved.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any more? Yes, thank you, Councillor Field. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Earlier in the quarter, Gloucester City Council joined together with 5 other district councils in the county to launch a new energy efficiency platform for residents with the company FirbNow. This was part of activity planned under Climate Leadership Gloucestershire's retrofit theme, and the platform offers comprehensive information and advice on energy efficiency measures and gives tips to residents on the types of installations they can take forward in their homes. It offers pathways to expert advice for residents and the opportunity to get help with retrofitting their homes. And it's primarily aimed at those who aren't eligible for the grant support offered by the Warm and Well scheme and are looking to self-finance better home energy efficiency. So the council will work with FirbNow to engage city residents on the platform further, and we'll look to run some events providing further information on the service. And I urge you, all members, to familiarise yourselves with it. You can go to firbnow.com/Gloucestershire and all the information is on there. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Field. Are there any more members of the Cabinet? Councillor Trimnell, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Council has launched a new customer charter that sets out our commitment to providing high quality services to local people. The customer charter, Your Experience, Our Commitment, outlines the standards of service customers can expect from us and the responsibilities we ask of them. It also reflects our commitment to delivering services with transparency, accountability and fairness, and covers residents, visitors to our venues or anyone seeking information or assistance. It also covers members of the public engaging with our staff, councillors, contractors, volunteers or service providers, as well as businesses. The charter is on our website under About Us, then Consultation and Feedback section, and posters have been displayed in the Appointment Centre and also in the main Eastgate office. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trimnell. Are there any more announcements from members of the Cabinet? Okay, we're going to move on now to chairs of committees. Councillor Gravels.
Just a unusual and very brief announcement. In just over 2 weeks' time, our Democratic Services Officer, Lauren, is taking the plunge and getting married. So on behalf of the ONS committee and the entire council and the staff and all of the officers, just like to wish you the very best of luck on your happy, happy day and a long and successful marriage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gravels. We're sharing a lot of wonderful good news tonight, so many congratulations, Lauren. Wishing you all the best. So, are there any more announcements from chairs of committees? Okay. No? Okay, we're moving on then to Head of Paid Service. Nothing from Mr McGinty. So we are now moving on to members' question time. So I will invite group leaders to ask 2 questions and related supplementary questions. Other members may indicate that they would like to ask a question by raising their hand. After group leaders, I will endeavour to allow each member who has indicated to ask 1 question and 1 related supplementary question before allowing any member to ask a further question. And this will continue until the time has gone, has run out. Questions should be put and answered without discussion. Noting that we have 45 minutes on the clock to get through as many questions as possible, and questions must comply with council procedure rules, which have been circulated to all members, and the members' code of conduct. Okay. Councillor Stephanie Chambers first, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just this last week, my colleague, Councillor Pam Tracy, and the Deputy Police Crime Commissioner had a meeting, question for the community engagement, with the Deputy Crime Commissioner, regarding the street drinking, antisocial behaviour, fly tipping and littering and environmental issues on the canal. The weather is obviously changing. My colleague here and me were both from Quedgley. We can walk down the canal. It's a lovely, lovely thing to do. We've got the college there, and the leader talked about putting money towards inviting students into our city. And then Councillor Courtney there spoke about engaging more people to come to our cultural events at the docks as well. So we really need to tackle this issue, because there is fly tipping, there's abusive behaviour, there's litter and things on the side, there's in the canal, and also the swans are getting caught up in all the litter's in their nest. And this is a really big issue, which I know Councillor Tracy's been working on for some time now. But I think it involves so many different areas of this council and other authorities that it really is a difficult thing to solve. What are you doing about it at the moment, and have you considered a community trigger to try and make this a massive priority for this city?
Councillor Trimnell, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your question, Councillor Chambers. It is a really complex issue, and it's one that I am so familiar with. I'm getting a lot of residents, so is Councillor Pam Tracy, with regards to it. It is ongoing. It's all stemmed from individuals who have set up camp there because they are homeless and they are rough sleeping. So you could say it's now become an encampment, which is affecting the lives of the residents, because it's quite near the park and there is a lot of rubbish and things like that. The issue is very much the fact that because they are deemed as homeless, we cannot, because there isn't at present an enforcement policy to actually take them off that site. So we are looking ahead, and we will look at maybe bringing an enforcement policy in order to then be able to take the necessary action to actually remove them from the site, because it's an unacceptable place for them to set up camp. So this is what I'm hoping that will be done. That said, they are human beings. We need to engage with them. We're hopeful that Julian House, who's the new outreach provider that are starting on the 1st of April, will do this necessary engagement work. Because at the end of the day, they have certain behaviours which are complex, and we could say that we're enabling them by leaving them there, because what needs to happen is we need to change their environments. If we start changing environments, then we start changing behaviours. And therefore, it is our intention to, if they're not going to comply, if they're not going to be wanting to take the homes that we're going to be offering them and engage, then what we're going to do is then enforce. But we can't do that without an enforcement policy. The Labour government are bringing out guidelines for rough sleeping, and this is due to come out, I believe, within the next couple of months. So by June, I'm hopeful that these guidelines will come in place. That will give us, the council, more authority and more legitimacy to then build our own enforcement policy. I completely understand the state of the site. I've seen it myself. I've been down there regularly. What we have done is we've instructed Ubico to monitor the area more regularly than they normally would. And all we can say is if residents down there do hear of certain things that are criminal, then they must call the police. And this is what I've been saying to residents who are continually contacting me about it. So they must call the police, especially when it's to do with antisocial behaviour. So, as I say, it is an issue that I'm very much aware of. It's something that I really want to get sorted. But we do have to be, I say patient, because I think residents have been patient enough, you know, and it is very ongoing, but please, you know, bear with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trimnell. Do you have a supplementary question? Councillor Chambers, please ask.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and my supplementary is, this council, I don't know how many we have, but we have some cameras that can be put in position. And I'm not in favour of criminalising people sleeping rough, but with the behaviour that does take place there, near the water, and with students from the college and other residents, I think, would you consider putting a camera there to help gain the evidence and help for their safety as well?
Thank you for your supplementary, Councillor Chambers. I would hope that we would sort the issue out before we put cameras. I think the whole process of going through putting cameras up, by the time we do that, I'm hopeful that our enforcement policy will then bring them out, and then hopefully we'll never be in this position again. So although I sympathise exactly with what you said, cameras can work for this particular principle, I think, just to be really honest and clear with you, I think by the time we set that up, going forward in terms of putting cameras and who's going to monitor those cameras and that kind of thing, I'm hopeful that we'll sort out this issue. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Trimnell. Councillor Chambers, would you like to ask your second question now?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'll be brief with this one. My colleague, Councillor Gravels, he's been working tirelessly to support the car boot sale over the last several months. And it's spreading across the city now, where I've had questions. One of my colleagues was on the door talking to somebody the other day. She's a trader. She said she doesn't claim benefits. She's got a back problem. This is how she makes her money. She works hard. She utilises the car boot sale. And she just is in despair, and she really wants to know what's happened and where has the process gone wrong. She knows we were aware that we left it with the tender process for a 15-year tender, and now she wants to know what's gone wrong in that time. Why are we here now when all the other car boot sales across the county are opening up and ours isn't?
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Wilson to respond, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, the question, first of all, where's the process gone wrong? Believe it or not, it hasn't gone wrong. The fact of the matter is, because of the type of agreement that we're negotiating, it's a land disposal rather than just granting a licence, and these things do tend to take a longer time. It's taken a few months, but that's not unusual by any stretch of the imagination. It's also subject to new procurement rules that came into force in February. We have to be able to demonstrate that we have obtained value for money for Gloucester taxpayers. And if we were to let it go for anything less than could be reasonably obtained, we would have to get sign off from the Secretary of State. The problem with a land disposal is you're tying yourself into something that can be anything up to 7 to 15 years. So you have to get it right. This council in the past has rushed through deals. I remember the car park at Westgate Street, or the Westgate car park, for example, rushed through. No, I'm not looking at anybody. I'm looking at the history books, if you like. And I remember Blackfriars as well, because I think from memory, I chaired the inquiry into that. That went badly wrong as well, because we rushed through a deal when we should have taken our time. We have to get this right, because this is an agreement that will be in place for years. The good news is the car boot sale is definitely coming back. And we're quite...
Quiet in the gallery, please.
We cannot. This council has lost millions in the past for rushing through deals.
Excuse me.
Taking our time.
Could I just remind the members of the public that we can't respond to things from the gallery. There is no public participation in this part of the meeting. I'm terribly sorry, but those are the rules. Those are the rules. I'm afraid that if there's any more interruption to the business, I will have to adjourn or ask you to leave. But you're quite welcome to stay and listen to the debate, but you must not disrupt it. Is everyone clear on that? Is everyone clear on that? Good. Okay, we'll continue. You're not going to be... Okay, I'm going to pass you over to the monitoring officer who will explain the rules.
Can we hold the clock for questions, please? The clock's ticking down.
Yeah. Pause the clock.
There is no right to address the council from the public gallery. That possibly wasn't explained to you when you came here this evening. Obviously, you're very, very welcome to stay and listen to the debate and listen to the answer that the councillor is giving you. But you can't interrupt the flow of business. And if you do interrupt the flow of business, you will be asked to leave. Am I clear? Thank you.
Thank you, Monitoring Officer. So we'll continue. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do continue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that's one of the applicants. I don't know if the others are here. But as I said, we're nearly there, actually, and I would imagine that we will have a decision fairly soon. The priority after that is to get the car boot sale back again. But unfortunately, as I said, there's always a danger of rushing through these negotiations. There's a limit on I can say, because lease agreements are done on a non-disclosure agreement basis. So I cannot say what's taking place in commercial negotiations. All I can say is that we are working as hard as we can to get the best possible deal for the city. And we are close to being there, actually, so we really are at the final stages. So there will be a car boot up and running fairly soon, but I can't give you an exact date yet. But the feedback I got today was quite positive. So I'm more positive today than I was yesterday, but you're just going to have to bear with me just for a little bit longer.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. And is there a supplementary question on that, please? Thank you.
Thank you. As there has been a lot of public interest in this and the process, I don't know, we're on the second run of it. I'm not quite sure where we are with the process. Will you just commit to probably just a light touch? I'm not asking for months of work, but just a review over what happened, not releasing any commercially sensitive information, but just so people understand that the process was run fairly and with all the proper processes in place.
I think I'd already agreed for audit and governance to look into this, which I think is the right way to do it. With the fact of the matter, we're so near the end of the process now that I think that audit and governance could take it up fairly quickly. So, and I would be more than happy to do that. But again, I have to emphasise, we will be examined on how we run this whole process and made sure that we've done everything by the book. So I'm more than happy for that to happen. But unfortunately, I can understand the frustrations from people in the public gallery there, that it's taken this long. But unfortunately, sometimes these things do. But bear in mind that once we get this sorted, it'll be a car boot will be there for years as a result. So, I mean, and it will be a good result. It's just right at the very beginning, it can be tricky to get these things off the ground, but it is coming.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I believe it's Councillor Pullen next. Would you like to ask your question, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a question to the leader of the council. Could the leader give us an update on this proposed sale of Gloucestershire Airport? And could he tell us whether any of the recent safety incidences and near misses at the airport is having any impact on the sale?
Thank you, Terry. They're at the second stage of the process. In other words, there was a very large number of interests and applicants, and they were put down. We've now got it down to 4 applicants, and they're preparing their final reports for consideration. That timeline has changed from the 14th of this month to the 14th of April, not because we're delaying the work, but because the people that are putting in the bids need more time. So we've given them more time, and we're expecting a report back with a recommendation from Savills in the month of May. And we'll probably be looking to try and get something to the June council meeting. The incidents were airport incidents, and the airport has, these ones were flying or small aircraft, and they've changed the flying patterns at the airport to resolve that matter. But no, those incidents have not had any impact on the application. Incidents happen from time to time. it's an operational airport. You cannot operate forever without having an incident. You try and make sure you don't have as many incidents, but that's the way it goes. So that's where we are. We're getting to the point where I think before the summer, this council will be asked to make a decision. But we've got to go. I say we've got to do it properly, and we've got to make sure that we get the right outcome, and an outcome which means that the airport is protected long into the future.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Pullen? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you for that. But the leader will be aware that in addition to progress towards a unitary authority, ultimately there will be a combined authority which will include Gloucestershire. A combined authority whose remit will include improved transport links, better business support, skills and employment. Now, in view of that role, and particularly in view of the transport links, should we not consider putting the sale of the airport on hold until a combined authority comes in, a combined authority which may have a far broader view of how the airport could be made a success going forward?
No, I think we've got to carry on doing what's best for Gloucestershire Airport at the moment. I've had meetings with the managing director. I know they're making progress in turning around the deficit they're operating there. But if we were to join the West of England Combined Authority, we'd be waiting probably 4 years to be able to join. We can't wait 4 years to finalise a decision on the airport. There's no plans ahead. When we get a combined authority, there will be elections for the mayor of that area. We're talking 4 years away. So I don't think we can wait that long. It would be the wrong thing to do. The purpose of getting a decision on whether we sell the airport is because we do not have the working capital to provide the investment into the airport. The working capital it needs to deal with the southeast corner, with the CGX business park, the one that needs to bring in the radar. We don't have the working capital to do that. We're hoping that the buyers that are now bidding for it have the working capital to do that investment. So we should go ahead and make a decision this summer, and we should ignore the issue about a combined authority for the time being.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Councillor Pullen, do you have another question, please?
Certainly do, Madam Mayor. And it's another question to the leader. I won't say you're honoured. The leader has presented his own proposals for a Greater Gloucester as part of the move towards unitary status in Gloucestershire, drawn up by yourself, not in consultation with any of the other group leaders. And you don't need to be reminded, of course, but the council is in no overall control. Thankfully, at the recent Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting, you agreed to consult and include other political groups in the process going forward. Can I ask how you propose to do that, please?
Yeah, as I said, that what we had in December is at Christmas, the county leader decided we'd have a plan for a unitary county and abolition of this wonderful council we've got here. We then got a proposal from 5 MPs that we would have a split county with the abolition of this council with no consideration. I just put in a proposal which is being worked on the Greater Gloucester area. And the Greater Gloucester area is the area that I want to see in any unitary authority. In other words, it should not be carved up. The proposal from Cheltenham Borough Council clearly shows the Greater Gloucester area being carved up in the ridiculous situation where Longford and Long Levens are in different local authorities in the future. You can't have that nonsense. So we've got a lot of work to do on what the proposals are. But we've got until the 28th of November. We are employing some individuals to look at the Greater Gloucester model. We're also working with the other councils to work on the other proposals, so that by the time we get to there, it might well be that we want to support two proposals to go to the Minister as alternatives. The difficulty in Gloucestershire is that reorganising the county is difficult because you've got two large communities, Cheltenham and Gloucester, that are a bit too small for their own unitary councils. So the Greater Gloucester is about the same size as Bath and North Somerset unitary council. So it is about that size. You've got a government who's insisting that it should only nothing less than 500,000 population. What a ridiculous thing. It's a calculation done on some spreadsheet by somebody that's probably started work in the ministry and said this is the best model for it. This is the most financially sound. Even the city MP doesn't agree with that. So we've got to go through a whole load of process, and that's why we don't rush this. We get it right. So we've got plenty of work to do. We can't really start work until we've got the county council elections out the way. We know the political makeup of Gloucestershire County Council, and we can start working together. But the local authorities and the leaders of the councils are meeting regularly on this, and we hope to be able to engage as many members of this council. But I would have thought we'd all want to see some form of Gloucester City Council representing this city and not a parish council, which is what the Labour government particularly wants.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Councillor Pullen, do you have a supplementary question, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, in the best interests of the people of the city, to whom us councillors are here to represent, can you give us a guarantee that before any submission is made in November, you will bring that to this city council for discussion?
I think there's going to be a lot of conversations within this council about the future of local government. There's going to be a need to talk to the parish councils that surround the city. There's going to be a whole lot of things. And in the end, the council will need to propose something. I think in order to get something through, we might find that we're asking for two solutions to go forward. But let's see, we're a long way into it. I mean, the government produced the white paper. The Labour manifesto had nothing about the abolition of this wonderful council. We've been here for 542 years as a council. And what happens? The Labour government says, you're going. It's not in our manifesto, but you're going. We're scrapping you because it's just too small. Well, I think the work this council's done over the years is exemplary. Despite the political differences we have, we've worked hard for the benefit of the city of Gloucester. And the only party that, well, the party that wants to get rid of Gloucester City Council and district councils is the Labour government, and the ones that are supporting them is the Conservatives at Shire Hall, who wants to just have a unitary county, and all we'd end up left with is some tiny little parish council. That's the alternative. Nothing for this city. So remember that, Terry. You've got to do the best for the city of Gloucester, and that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Councillor Alistair Chambers next, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So firstly, before I go into my question, a bit of history. The reason we're late today was because I was going to raise an urgent motion, which I was not given the permission to raise. So this question's based on the urgent motion I wanted to raise. I've been made aware of people being buried in our city, in the Council of Rent City Crematorium and Burial, bodies being placed in the wrong graves. This is absolutely tragic. I'd like an immediate inquest and investigation into this, and public information put out to the public tomorrow by 4 o'clock. Is that possible, please? To the Cabinet member in charge of the crematorium.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor
Thank you,
Wilson.
Councillor Chambers. This is the first I've heard of this, so and I've just quickly read your motion, which sounds like something out of a horror movie. I will look into that as a matter of urgency first thing tomorrow and get to the bottom of this. I probably will need to speak to you because I need to know what it is that you know yourself, so I can get as full a picture as possible if you're around anytime tomorrow. We'll see what we need to address it. But certainly something like this needs to be addressed pretty much immediately. So I will do it. I'll set the ball rolling. But as you can appreciate, all I know so far is what I've seen in your motion.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do you have a supplementary,
Thank you,
Councillor
Madam Mayor. Thank you for the response that you're going to treat it urgently. Given that I'm available straight after the meeting, given the urgent context of the thing. But to give you some background, there was 2 burials on the same day. The afternoon burial was placed in the morning burials position that they'd purchased. Therefore, there was grieving families standing over a stranger who's been placed in their mother's grave. So this is urgent. And it needs a minute. It was only found out later in the evening when the second burial came and they said, that's not my parent. So there's been actually a Home Office inquest in it where they've had to do an exhumeration licence where the City Council have had to apply to the Home Office to get a licence to better remove the deceased body from the grave. It's actually a Home Office. So there is evidence of this. So it's not the fabrication. So it urgently needs looking into. Will you give us your assurances that we'd have as much information as you can provide by 4 p.m. tomorrow and you'll make it public for the city and not just be hidden behind council officers? Thank you.
I'll need to speak to you more and find out more, but before I can give commitment to push something out before I know the full picture. I mean, I know this is cabinet members' questions, but do you mind me asking you, do you know when this occurred? How long ago? No, I can't. Okay, I'll speak to you later on and see if you can just let me know everything you know.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Chambers, you have a second question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you'll see there's people here with packed house today. The majority of the people over here are from St Bridge Pond and the houses around St Bridge area. They take a lot of time and effort looking after the St Bridge Pond in their own voluntary time, making sure that it's a nice asset for the community. Given that the City Council hasn't been giving them any funding, thankfully they received funding from myself and Andrew Gravells from the County Council. God bless the County Council. On that basis, this is the Member of Cabinet for Environment. We asked, if you recall, in the last meeting, myself and Councillor Gravells asked you to urgently contact houses around the pond that show that they're going to be at urgent risk. They're in flood zone level 3, which means they're a high chance of being flooded. You refused to contact them, and you said it's a County Council requirement because they're the flood organisation. And you said that this document here, are you ready, was a County Council document. It's not. It's a City Council joint partnership document called Communities Prepared. So it is part of the stakeholder of Gloucester City Council. Are you still confident that this document, although it's 7 years old, is still up to date and still adequate for the needs of the residents where their properties are going to flood?
Thank you. Councillor Field, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question. Yes, the document is a live document. It's on the County Council website. And yes, you are correct. It is a document that's in partnership with all the councils as well and all the other agencies. Of course, flooding and flooding prevention, as I mentioned at the last Cabinet meeting, I believe, is the responsibility of a number of agencies, Environment Agency, the County Council as the Flood Authority, the City Council work with them, and then of course it's down to residents themselves to make necessary measures for prevention of flooding to their properties. So it's a responsibility of a number of different people, but of course we take it all very seriously, and we did issue a fact sheet about St Bridge and flooding, which went to you and to Councillor Gravells and other relevant members, and that was last month, I believe.
Thank you, Councillor Field.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for giving your assurances that this document that's 7 years old is up to date and is very relevant, and you've looked at it. I'd like to call you out for that, because if you go to page 14, flooding, there's various lists and links to get more information. Flood plan, page not found, page not found. Am I safe from flooding? Create a flood plan, page not found, page not found, page not found. Where can I find help in the event of a flood? Page not found, page not found, page not found. Have you even looked at this document that you said is up to date, which is 7 years old, which has got every link is not accessible? You are therefore unfit for your position. I immediately call for your resignation.
Councillor
Because you are
Chambers.
not looking at the paperwork.
Councillor Chambers, that's a personal comment, please. So
With the greatest respect,
please-
Madam Mayor, right of reply, I do not believe it is. He's a public servant. He's here as a public elected official. He's not in his place in capacity as a member of Environment, is adequately serving people whose homes are in flood level 3. They're an immediate risk of flooding. He's not
Councillor
taking it
Chambers,
seriously.
you can criticise policies, but not the person, please. Thank
Okay,
you. That
I
is just
criticise
according
his
to the
policies
rules.
on he takes on flooding.
Thank
I think
you.
they're unfit and inadequate, and I think it's a tragic and waste of space. Thank you.
Councillor Field, do you wish to respond, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, the document is live.
Councillor Field, please continue if you wish to. Thank you.
No, I don't think I do.
Thank you, Councillor Field. Our next question is from Councillor Lewis, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is for the leader. Yeah, we'll get him off. While I was sitting over there, we got accused of having a shrinking council. Now I'm going to suggest that we've got an invisible leader. Where were you on Sunday with the civics and all the rest of it and the rest of the councillors? Why, as leader of the council, weren't you there representing the rest of the people?
Councillor Hilton, please.
I had another engagement on Sunday, which is why I didn't attend, and I gave my apologies. Similarly, I could ask the question of you and your leader, why weren't you there when the mayor was installed in her seat in Gloucester Cathedral? I was there.
Councillor Lewis, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I mean, and a few weeks before that, we had a little thing called a COVID memorial. Now, that really affected the people. Everybody here was affected by COVID. The ambulance services, the nurses, the doctors, they put their lives on the line for us. And for half an hour on a Sunday morning, we had a lovely little service, opening up the COVID memorial. Now, don't you think that the leader of the council, we had weeks and weeks of notice, so don't start that one with me. You should have been there representing the whole of the city as the leader of the city council. Hang on, I haven't finished yet. I know you're going to get it. Yeah, I was just going to say, why weren't you there representing this council at that very valid COVID memorial?
And I could ask the same question why the leader and deputy leader of the Conservative group and the Independents weren't there when we raised the flag for the Holocaust Memorial Day. Because I was there. Madam Mayor, I had COVID right at the time that Boris Johnson had COVID, and I don't want to remember it. Okay?
Next question.
Thank you,
Had
Councillor
it at
Hilton.
a time very stressful because nobody knew what was going on at the time. So I do not need a lecture from Andy Lewis.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. And our next question is from Councillor Gravels, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I want to come back to the issue of the car boot sale again, please. And it's a question for Declan. For the record, you can mutter whatever you like under your voice, Councillor Hill. And if you've got something to say to any of us, please tell us. Don't just sit there muttering. So I want to first of all,
One at a time, please.
He's making personal comments about me while he's getting up, supposed to be asking a question. Can you ask him, make sure he
stop the
asks
clock,
a
please.
question?
To ask the question.
Councillor Gravels, continue with your question.
Looking at me, I just wanted to understand what he was trying to say.
If you could just ask the
I'm really
question,
happy to put my question.
please
My
do.
question,
We're waiting to hear it. Thank you.
That I have no interest of any kind. because that was raised when we came to Cabinet. I've no interest of any kind, financial or any other way. My interest in this issue began when Reg Stoldery wrote an email to all councillors, all of us. Every one of you could have replied to that, setting out his concerns about the delays on how the car boot contract was being dealt with by the council. And it seemed to me that it was just dragging on and on and on. Car boot sales aren't just a quirky weekend tradition. They are a vital part of Gloucester's social and economic fabric. Thanks to some long delays in answering emails and coming to a decision, local car boot organisers and the public are left high and dry with no car boot sales on the horizon whatsoever. It's now time, Madam Mayor, for this council to stop making excuses and start delivering for the people of Gloucester who enjoy and rely on these populous events.
You get to your question, please, Councillor Griffiths.
So, Madam Mayor, please can the Deputy Leader of the Council announce today, this evening, the date, which date does he or the leader have penciled in to announce who will be running the car boot sales and from what date, please? Thank you.
Councillor Wilson to respond, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This council really hasn't learnt its lesson from the past. We do not rush these things, we do them properly. And I'm sorry, this has to be done properly. The taxpayers of this city deserve nothing less. There will be a car boot sale. It's coming back, but we need to make sure that we've got the right agreement in place. We're very close to it, and we will be making an announcement soon, but I'm not going to authorise it until I'm sure that we've got the right deal. I'm sorry, but the people of the city deserve better.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Quiet in the public gallery, please. Councillor Gravels, do you have your supplementary question, please?
So, yeah, I do have a supplementary question or two for Declan. Declan, you tell full council that you're not going to rush it. Well, tell us something we don't know, mate. I think we get that. It's obvious you're not rushing it. And I think the reason people are sceptical is because we've had several dates given to us on when a decision will be made.
Could you get to your question, please, Councillor Gravels?
None have been adhered to. So that's why we're keen, that's why I'm keen for you to give us a date in your mind's eye when you think that decision will be taken. What are we talking about?
Question,
2 weeks,
please.
2 months, 2 years? Because
Councillor
so far,
Gravels.
the track record is not a good one.
Andrew, I'm sorry, but I'm very uncomfortable. You seem to be speaking just for one applicant when there's more than one applicant in the process. We have to be fair to all applicants. We have to give them a fair saying, and we have to make sure that we chose the agreement that we can get that suits the city as a whole. The thing is that this is not really that slow a process. We're talking about a land disposal here. Land disposals are serious businesses. These are things that we have to make sure that we get right. I keep on saying this, we have to make sure we get it right. This council in the past has made bad decisions as regards various, I can think of the UK Drink Company for one of them, and I can think of a few other things, but every time I do, I get a stroppy email from a former leader, so I won't. But the fact of the matter is that for a deal this size, you have to expect it to take some time, especially when there's lawyers involved, and there are lawyers involved, and we have to make sure that we follow the legal advice very closely, as well as all the procurement legislation requirements. Because if we get any of this wrong, I can guarantee you we will be challenged in the future, and then people will be coming back to us wondering what the hell we're doing. Are we some kind of a bunch of amateurs or something? So I'm very sorry this has taken longer than most people expected. But all I can say is that we're close to being there now, and we will be making an announcement soon. But we're not going to do it until I see that all the advice has been followed and we've followed the proper process, so that we've got something that will be a bulletproof agreement that cannot be challenged, because we've done everything by the book, and we have to do it by the book. And I'm sorry if it's not as quick as some people would have liked, but
Thank you, Councillor
there's a
Wilson.
right way and a wrong way.
Quiet, please, in the public gallery. Quiet, please.
Councillor Condor is next.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Condor is next, please. Thank you. Councillor Condor, please. Quiet in the public gallery, please. Thank you. Councillor Condor, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Some of you may know about the scheme called Ask for Angela. Obviously, I know about it. It's named for a woman called Angela Crompton, who was murdered by her husband 13 years ago. And it provides a way for people who feel at risk when they're out for the evening in a pub, a bar, a club, to go to the staff and ask for Angela, and the staff are supposed to then make provision for that person to be able to leave safely so that the person they're with doesn't know.
We're going to pause the clock while the public gallery
Say it again in a minute.
exits. Thank you.
To resume, if I may.
Can resume.
So the Ask for Angela scheme
please continue.
has been investigated by the BBC recently, and I only read about this yesterday. The BBC discovered that a large proportion of pubs and bars do not run the scheme properly. The staff aren't necessarily trained very well. A lot of the staff didn't recognise the meaning of the word Angela. Some authorities are now requiring that as part of the licensing process, those pubs and bars which require a new alcohol licence undertake to educate their staff in this scheme so that everybody can be sure that if they need help, they can go to the bar and ask for Angela and they will be understood. And I wonder if I can ask the Cabinet Member for Communities to look into the possibility of running that scheme in this city. I'm not a frequenter of licensed premises. I've seen Ask for Angela in some places. Sometimes another woman's name is used instead. But it seems to me that it would augment the safety precautions that we already have in place for our nighttime economy in Eastgate Street and surrounding areas, and that it would be a good thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Condo. Councillor Trimnell to respond, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Condor, for your question. Just to correct something that Angela just said, actually, and I think it's with respect to the lady who this campaign was made from. The Ask for Angela campaign is named in remembrance of Angela Phillips. And I think this is really important to state, actually. Her family did not wish Angela to be remembered by her married name, Crompton. She was a woman who was abused and killed by her husband in 2012 when an argument about redecorating his house got out of control. So I think it's really important just to add there. So, you know, the name's Angela Phillips, not Angela Crompton. I do know many establishments and venues in Gloucester do very well advertise the Ask for Angela campaign. I know the Wetherspoons does. I know that many bars down Eastgate Street, including Butler's. I know Justin Hudson is very good with the campaign, and it's something that he's highlighted and emphasised very much at the universities. That said, I think you've raised a brilliant point about licensing, and I think that there are many local authorities up and down this country that have actually written that in a clause that they do actually ask for Angela within that licence. So I think that's something that I will definitely take back to the officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trimnell, for that clarification and explanation. Would you like to ask a supplementary, Councillor Condor?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Millard next then, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to Councillor Rebecca Trimble. I'm just wondering what work has taken place regarding the motion that the Labour Party brought to Council in November regarding the taxi ranks in Gloucester.
Thank you. Councillor Trimnell to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your question, Councillor Millard. I do believe that work was being undertaken at the time of your motion that came forward. That said, I haven't received an update since. So now you've asked the question, I will go back to the officer in charge of that and see where we are and provide you with a written response to and an update on where we are. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a supplementary question, Councillor Millard?
I have recently been in discussions with County Council, and it's concerning that they were not aware of this motion or had not been contacted. I appreciate your comments, but could you give me a commitment that if the relevant parties, as described in the motion, haven't yet been contacted, or a review with those parties taken place, that will take place?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. Yes, you've got my assurance on that. I will follow that up. I will copy you into the email that I will send to the officer tomorrow, if that's okay.
Thank you to Councillor Millard and to Councillor Trimnell. And next we have Councillor Chambers-Debus, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a question for Councillor Hilton. It's quite a nice one, this one. So, yeah. I've been told that down at Chase Lane Depot, there are the gates from the old market hall. And unfortunately, out of all the sets that there were, there is only one pair which is still reasonably intact. But my question is, rather than having them languishing there, can they somehow be incorporated, maybe not as gates, maybe as something else, I don't know, into the build when we do the regeneration bit for the market, please, Greyfriars?
Councillor Hilton, please.
I think that's well worth having a look at. I don't even know what they're looking like. They look like at the moment. We're just about to start work on the Greyfriars project. The project manager's been put in place. He's been advised that we want to see the murals that were outside British Home Stores put near there because they depicted all the goods that you could buy in the city centre. So they'll be ideal to be put next to the new market. I think we can ask the head of place to have a look at what you're talking about. Maybe you can we discuss whether they can be fitted in somewhere in the project. It's early days, so it's possible, but I say I can't visualise them at the moment, so it's a bit more difficult to come back with any more authoritative point of view.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Obviously, we've run out of time now, but Councillor Chambers-Debus, do you have a supplementary, please?
Yeah, I did. You kind of almost answered some of it already. But down at Chase Lane, as you know, there's other stuff like the murals from outside British Home Stores, and I believe there was some from Sainsbury's as well. Would you be able to make a commitment that instead of going out and purchasing new pieces of public art, we find a way to repurpose some of the brilliant stuff that we've already got?
Absolutely. Let's repurpose what we've got and we can use it in an imaginative way. It might be part of a new construct of public art that would be ideal. I mean, absolutely. But so we've got to get, whatever we do, we've got to get it right and we've got to get it in a good focal point so it looks in its place and it looks interesting for people that come to the city. The importance of public art, and I find that when I'm travelling around the world and going to cities, which I like to do, is walking around, is looking at the public art and what the city has put forward. You follow bits of public art. It's the things you take photographs of. So that's what we want to do for Gloucester. And we're developing a new public art strategy so that we'll do much better than we've done in the past. And if we've got bits of public art that are languishing in storerooms that we can bring back into the open, then we should do it. And pass on your ideas. Send a photograph to either me or Caroline and say, look, I've seen this in the shed. Can we use it?
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Apologies to those who had questions that we didn't get round to having time to ask. So very sorry about that. We are now moving on to questions to chairs of meetings, and we have 15 minutes on the clock. Members may indicate that they would like to ask a question by raising their hand, as before, and I will endeavour to allow each member who has indicated to ask one question and one related supplementary question before allowing any member to ask a further question. Questions should be put and answered without discussion, noting that we have just 15 minutes to get through as many questions as possible. Questions must relate to the business or functions of the relevant committee and comply with council procedure rules and the members' code of conduct. Thank you. Are there any questions to chairs of committees? Yes. Councillor Radley, please. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is to the chair of the Licensing and Enforcement Committee. I was wondering what you were doing to update the Cabinet Member for Communities regarding the motion that the Labour Party group brought to this council, as it is your area of knowledge.
Thank you for your question. I haven't updated the individual. We meet monthly or every couple of months, and in those discussions we will raise different points of matters, and I have raised this previously. That is one of the things I can do. I absolutely will work with all parties and look forward to Councillor Trimble's response back to me so that we can work together.
Thank you, Councillor Millard. Councillor Radley, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you for your answer. Do you have a date that you'll be able to update Councillor Trimnall so that she can move the matter forward?
I currently haven't got any additional information than what Councillor Trimble is aware of. If and when I get more information, then I will obviously put that to Councillor Trimble. There is a committee meeting with so if anything comes from that regarding the motion and any subsequent information that Councillor Trimble needs to be aware of, then I absolutely will do that immediately.
Thank you, Councillor Millard. Councillor Stephanie Chambers, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a question for the Chair of Planning. There seems to be various meetings cancelled lately. Could you let us know why that is?
Councillor Condor, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My understanding is that there is a good deal of a good number of applications in the pipeline, but nothing was ready to be presented to the committee. So that's all I can say at the moment. There's a big one coming up this coming week, and we are having a little bit of training prior to that. I have no control over what is presented to us. It has to be ready for us. So I wouldn't want anything rushed. We wait and see what comes along.
Thank you, Councillor Condor. Councillor Chambers, do you have a supplementary question? You do.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do. So I just wanted to check. So they're not ready to come to planning. Are we missing any that are due to come to planning? So sometimes are you waiting for a load all in one go, or can we just deal with some that are coming through now? Because there's so many things that were left in planning, large projects, and they just don't seem to be coming through. Is it short staff? What is it that we could do something to speed up these coming to committee?
Councillor Condon?
I'm sure shortage of staff has something to do with it. There is a national shortage of planning officers. The government are providing for 300 additional officers across the country, which doesn't make very much when divided between all the local authorities. But as I said, I'm not putting pressure on any officers to bring things to us before they're ready. Yes, we know there are big things in the pipeline, exciting prospects, I think. Next week, it's Wall's Ice Cream Factory, you'll be pleased to hear. The supply of ice cream for Europe is going to be ensured with new equipment in a new installation, if we agree it. And that's something that I was not expecting at all. So that's what's coming up next week. And the other large things like Clapham Court, presumably in my own ward, will come along in due course. Do ask about anything else that you've got in mind.
Thank you, Councillor Condon.
Councillor O'Donnell, no?
Councillor O'Donnell next, I believe.
He doesn't have to stand up.
Thank you. Please remain seated.
Thank you. This is a question to the Chair of Scrutiny. The council are using a chemical at the moment for weed killing, glyphosate, and this needs to be looked at because there's been a case in America recently where 1.2 billion has just been awarded to somebody, and there's 60,000 other cases.
I think I think I'm really happy to have a conversation with the councillor outside of this meeting, get more details, and then take a look at that. We're certainly not worried about looking at issues like that, councillor. Overview and scrutiny, as you well know. So we can have a catch up after here or tomorrow, whatever. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Can I also just say, which this will be struck off again, I'm sure, but because I didn't get to ask my question, I'm very upset that this council let down residents of Gloucester with a car boot. Flog a dead horse.
O'Donnell, you need to ask a supplementary question to the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny.
Can you scrutinise this debacle of a fiasco with the car boot, please? Because, honest to God, this smells fishy in the canal water, and I'm not even lying about that. It absolutely stinks.
The Head of Paid Service will clarify this situation.
I think I heard earlier in the meeting, Madam Mayor, that the Deputy Leader indicated that this would be a matter for the Chair of Audit and Governance. So I wonder if this question should be directed at the Chair of Audit and Governance rather than the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny. So, Madam Mayor, I would invite you to ask the Chair of Audit and Governance to respond to this question.
I'd like to give my response before she does.
Councillor O'Donnell, having taken advice on this, your question should be directed to the Chair of Audit and Governance, who is Councillor Miller. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Miller.
Do I stand up? Hello, I don't know if I stand up or not, but I'm the Chair of Audit and Governance, and my Deputy Chair has raised the issue with me a couple of weeks ago, and we will be looking at it in due course. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Are there any other questions? Did Councillor Alistair Chambers have a question, I believe?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Question to the fantastic member, Chair of Scrutiny, who's an upstanding member of this council. So to the member, Chair of Scrutiny, I appreciate you're passionate about the honest and transparency of this council being one of the fundamental points of the Nolan Principles. So thank you very much for that. Being the chair of the Scrutiny Committee, I was hoping if you could look at a separate investigation called in with regards to the bodies being buried in incorrect graves, and there could be a full inquiry brought to Scrutiny, a specialist inquiry, an investigation brought into this. It could be closed door. It could be a closed door meeting, but I think we need to get to the bottom of this and make sure this doesn't happen again. Is that something you could? Is that something you could do, Chair? Thank you.
Councillor Chambers, this is a matter for the Cabinet member, as has previously been discussed. It's not for Councillor Gravel. But thank you.
Will we make it? This was a question addressed to me. That's the second time the Chief Executive has tried to stop me answering a question. So the question was addressed to me, as was the previous one, and I'm denied the opportunity to speak. Not sure what's going on here.
I'll ask the question for clarity then, because it might be a bit long-winded. Thank you very much, Councillor Gravel. So for clarity, I was just wondering if the Overview and Scrutiny Committee could consider taking on board the debacle with regards to the... they'll be listening to the questions, so they're not sure.
Can I make a point of order, please?
Yes, Councillor Chambers de Bus.
It isn't actually fair to the families and the loved ones involved in this.
There's no point of order.
That this is being dragged through the council.
You need to give a reference to the
It is
Constitution.
disgusting.
Reference to the Constitution is
It's
not important.
inhumane.
Councillor Chambers, can I stand up? You sit down. Thank you. Councillor Chambers de Bus.
We need the reference to the Constitution, please, Madam Mayor. This is... anyone can do point of order then. Point of order then. Point of order.
Person.
Councillor Chambers, would you let Councillor Chambers de Bus speak, please? I am on my feet. You must be silent. That's the rule. That's the rule. You might not like it, but that's the rule. Councillor Chambers de Bus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know what number I need to quote or what point it is, but from a matter of humanity and empathy and compassion for the families involved in it, is it fair that this is being used almost like a circus and brought up again and again and again? How are those people's loved ones and families feeling about this? It's been brought up. The Cabinet member has agreed that it will be looked into. And actually, this behaviour is inhumane and quite disgusting.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers de Bus.
That was a personal attack. I'd like that removed from the thing. It can't be one for one. Oh, here you go again. And
Councillor Chambers de Bus, please stay. Please stay.
Right, okay. Whilst you're standing, just say this behaviour, we need to stop. Everyone needs to stop all personal attacks.
Yes, let's have an adjournment. Welcome back, everyone. I would now like to invite the monitoring officer to say a few words about proceedings this evening. Thank you.
Quick announcement, which is this, that when the Mayor is receiving advice from myself or from the head of paid service, we expect there to be silence in this chamber. It is impossible for the Mayor to listen carefully to the important advice that we have to give her when people are interrupting. Now, the Mayor is just about to make some important announcements about the procedure for the next few moments, and I'd like you all to listen carefully, please.
Thank you. From now on in this meeting, there will be no further personal attacks from any side to the other. You may criticise policies, but you will not criticise individuals. I hope that is clear. And also, following advice, the question being offered is not a matter for overview and scrutiny. So the question does not need to be answered. Okay, so we're going to carry on now and restart the clock.
I'll just ask a question because you made a statement.
I'm afraid not, and
you said
Andrew.
It's not an issue for overview and scrutiny. Who's decided
It is not.
that and why?
This is following advice. It is not a question for the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny. It's going to be sorted out with the Cabinet member involved. So please let us continue. Thank you, Councillor Gravels. Are there any further questions for chairs of committees? Okay. Thank you. We're now going to move on to item 9, climate change strategy. Councillor Field, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In an entirely uncontroversial meeting so far. Members will be aware that the climate change strategy was commissioned in 2023, along with the climate risk and vulnerability assessment, and it was approved by this council in March 2024. Officers were instructed to consult with the public and key partners on this strategy, and this being done, the results were then analysed, and the following report has now been approved by Cabinet, and it's brought to this council tonight for hopefully your approval. Members are being asked to support the proposed amendments in section 4 and to support the publication of a revised climate change strategy incorporating those said amendments, and that officers then be tasked with the production of a plan of projects that meets the aims of the climate change strategy. And the comments that we received from the public and the key partners were for the most part, very substantive and detailed and very useful in helping to inform the final shape of this strategy. I'm not going to comment in detail on the amendments because you can all see them on the papers and incorporated into the final strategy, but I will just mention a few things. Firstly, that the emphasis on active travel and using public transport that someone incorporated is, to me, a welcome one. And secondly, that respondents are perfectly right to worry about the costs of these proposals, but also to remember that the cost of doing nothing will be far more damaging to our economy and our long-term future on the planet. So it is right that we balance our budget, but we also have to balance the needs of the climate. And thirdly, that whether people are climate change sceptics or not, many of the measures we are proposing will enhance quality of life and or bring down costs for residents, such as retrofitting solar panels or insulation, which all save money and enhance living standards. The final amended strategy you see before you is not substantially different from the one passed by this council in 2024, and we are not here to debate the overall strategy or its necessity tonight. Now, this strategy was begun under the previous administration and contains many of the ambitions of my predecessor in this role, Richard Cook, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank him for his work on this strategy and commend it to him as well as this chamber. The Liberal Democrat administration are keen to take this strategy forward, building on the work of the previous Conservative administration, but putting our own stamp on it. I'm eager to get to work on the projects once we have a list, and indeed I'm bringing forward some exciting proposals to Cabinet that will align with the aims and objectives of this strategy. I'd like to thank all the officers who've worked on this strategy, particularly the climate change lead and decarbonisation lead, and I would urge all members of the Council to support this and these amendments, as it is crucial that we continue to show cross-party support for taking urgent action on climate change. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Field. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Hilton. Do you wish to speak now or reserve the right?
I'll reserve the right.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. So now we move on to debate. Who would like to start? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, seeing as I've just had my birthday. We're all about getting people out of the cars and onto buses and all that sort of scenario. I've got to wait till I'm 67 before I can get my bus pass or something like that. Now, can we look at bringing it back down to where it used to be so that I can just use the bus like any other people? I can afford to use it, don't get me wrong. But there's people out there who need that bus. Maybe just bring the age down so they have a look at it. I know it's going to cost and all the rest of it, but just my little one. Sees I'm getting old.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Anyone else? Councillor Gravels?
So I wanted to, first of all, pay tribute to the Friends of St. Bridge Pond, who were sat here. There were 8 or 9 of them, 10 of them. They listened to the debate for so long and then decided they would rather leave. And I connect that to the points that you were making about the poor attendance at your annual civic service in the cathedral in Gloucester on Sunday. I think as the longest serving member here, I've probably been to more civic services than a lot of you put together. And the reason I wasn't there was because I had to make a tough choice between A, coming to your civic service in the cathedral, or attending the annual general meeting at the FOSP. And because they do such a fantastic piece of work, I thought my loyalties on this occasion meant that I should be with them. So, no disrespect. So, I'm sorry that they're not here to hear what I'm going to say, apart from how I've just introduced the debate. So, Sebastian, I think your reports and all the amendments are quite sound. Apart from his bus fare amendment, he's obviously not going to move. I think it's a sound piece of work. However, I think I've identified a disconnect in there, which your cabinet members, somewhere, I forget where it was, have added to by adding their comments. And the comments that they make are where they say, yeah, we support Sebastian, we support the climate change report and all the rest of it. We want to see a lot more engagement with members of the public and the public getting involved and all that kind of thing. And that's absolutely fine. We all want to see that. It wasn't what we expected, but we saw a lot of members of the public here today. Perhaps they weren't as well behaved as they might have been, but at least they were interested and motivated enough to come along. So we obviously had the Carboot people and the St. Bridge Pond people. So I'm all for people getting involved with the council and the council going out to meet people. So in my ward in Abbeydale, we have an issue around flooding where the Environment Agency have produced some maps which show the risk of increased flooding in certain parts of my ward. And in an email from the City Council, they said to me, yeah, by all means, let those people know that they're now in the floodplain and tell them to prepare a floodplain report so that when it does get flooded, they know what to do and they've got everything stored properly and all that kind of thing, which was fair enough. So what happened at the annual general meeting of the FOSP on Sunday is that they said, all these people here and a lot more said it would be really good if the City Council would hold an exhibition and talk about the floodplain and the increase and the issues that
Afraid you're over time.
that will affect our area. And so I thought that was a great idea. So did they. City Council team, your team, said, no, forget it, we're not coming. Too many people involved, too difficult. We'd have to contact the Environment Agency. And by the way, the council...
Please wrap this up, please, Councillor Gravels. Thank you.
If I thought there wasn't that disconnect, I would have nothing to say. But Sebastian, you've got a big disconnect and you need to address it. And I promise you I'm nearly there. I guarantee that I will ensure that people in Abbeydale play their part in engaging.
Sorry, Councillor Gravels, you'll need to sit down now. Thank you. Councillor Pullen, please, next. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Cabinet Member, for the strategy and for the consultation. Finally, can I just remind people, of course, that it was in 2019 that the Labour group brought this motion, first of all, to declare a climate change emergency. That was 6 years ago. 2021, there was some research by the CLS consultancy. Council resolved to produce a detailed action plan. That was 4 years ago. Finally, 6 years later, we have a climate change strategy, which we have now consulted on, and it looks like we might have a document. Now, I'm not laying the blame on the administration. In fairness, the Conservative administration led on that, but it had taken you so far 6 years. And that was an emergency. God knows if it wasn't an emergency, how long it would have taken. So anyway, it is great that the residents of Gloucester have been consulted. I hope their views have been taken into account. Can I ask the Cabinet Member when the final document will be published? It's your responsibility now to carry out this very, very important piece of work, probably the most important piece of work that this council is undertaking on behalf of the people of Gloucester. And with the greatest of respect, I don't want an as soon as possible answer. We've been getting as soon as possible answers for 6 years. We need to know when that's going to be. We need a commitment because time is running out. The City Council have to be carbon neutral by 2030, and the whole city needs to be carbon neutral by 2045. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pullen. Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to thank Councillor Field and his officers for putting together this climate change strategy. As Terry rightly pointed out earlier, in 2019, Gloucester City Council Labour leader Kevin Stevens' motion to declare a climate change emergency was passed unanimously by this council. As a Labour group representing our residents, we are disappointed few or no key performance indicators or targets are present for cutting CO2 emissions from 2025 to 2030, as we've got to get to Gloucester City District being zero carbon by 2030. One of the points I'd like to make is that schools were asked for responses. No schools replied. I phoned Harwood, where I'm a school governor. St Peter's High School, they hadn't responded, and I spoke to the officer. No responses from schools. Out of a population of 132,500, according to the census 2021, 2.38% of the population responded. 56 responses to respondents. I was one of them. Probably a couple of people in this room were respondents to that as well. Sad and disappointing. What else have we got here? Where are we at with achieving zero carbon emissions by 2030? We need to look at our emissions, as I've already said. Recycling rates have flatlined since COVID. We're on track to hit, are we on track to hit 55% in terms of our recycling rates by 2026? And what is the current percentage for recycling in 2024? It's 5 years since COVID. COVID is linked to climate change. It was an emergency. We're now 6 years on from saying it's emergency. I believe we do have a climate change working group. I'm not on that. I'm the spokesperson for climate change. I'd like to be on that ASAP. Many negative comments about heat pumps, especially noise in that report by consultants. Is this just an anecdotal? There's 16 references to heat pumps, and one paragraph alone talks about all the negatives of heat pumps, which I'm not aware of, other than the noise level. 40 years on from the ozone depletion in the stratosphere, we can reduce harm to the planet by continuing to reduce CFCs and now carbon dioxide emissions. Even though all nations have agreed to cut chlorofluorocarbons, they are present to this day. A warning to all of us, we must hit our targets or 1.5 to stay alive won't happen. Cheltenham Borough Council have recognised by adding a climate change supplementary planning document, any developers should design and construct sustainable buildings and current buildings where practical to be retrofitted with energy efficiency, bespoke installation, solar panels and heat pumps. And finally, in 2022, the UK summer temperatures exceeded 40 degrees centigrade. Our council appeared to leave the trees with no care plan to do. Do we have a care plan for these trees, these million trees, and what's the plan to include in the future? Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Thank you. Is there any further debate? Yes, Councillor Chambers. Oh, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I think I saw Councillor Stephanie Chambers first, but are you happy for Councillor Radley to go? Thank you. Sorry for the confusion.
My apologies, Councillor Chambers. I thought I got waved at to stand, so my apologies there. So, it's an interesting document. I think the amendments are very poignant. The opportunities that the document highlights, particularly in terms of transports, within my own area, the humble bus shelter is very hot topic, because you need that bus shelter to stand in the cold and the wet to get on the bus, and the bus helps with the transport, and they're vital. The infrastructure is vital. So to see that mentioned is very, very useful. I was very impressed by the Columbia University diagram with regards to reuse, recycle, because I saw in that avoid, which I haven't seen in this before, and I thought was really very, very useful, because it's that reduction which is vital to make sure that we are using less energy. There's no point recycling things. That's the end of the chain. We want there to be efficiency. I would also like to sort of highlight that we have an absolutely fabulous food strategy that this council has put together, and there are incredible links between what this council can do in terms of climate change and how we think about food and how that comes into the city and the opportunities for sort of regenerative agriculture. And so I think, again, that's something that's very, very valuable. And I would just like to sort of also point out that much of the strategy for decarbonisation is relying on action outside, which in some ways we can influence. It's about the decarbonisation of how electricity is generated. So much of the work is dependent on a clean electricity system, and we're not there yet. So I think that this document is a good document. The amendments are moving in the right direction, and I hope we can all support them, because once we've got something, we can start doing something. It's certainly not perfect. There's more to be done, but we can start actually cracking on with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radley, and once again, apologies for the confusion. Councillor Stephanie Chambers, thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And unfortunately, one of those points was mine as well. So it was the bus shelters. So, yes, I've caught many a bus, and there's not a lot of shelters. So that really does need to change. It needs to be, we live in this country. We have a lot of rain, unfortunately, and we really need that to be better. Otherwise, it is really not a nice thing to be doing, getting on a bus and then sitting on a bus wet. I also wanted to thank Councillor Field for his kind words about Councillor Richard Cook, because I know this document has taken a long time to get here, but Richard was very, very passionate about it. He lived and breathed this work. So it's really good to see it come to fruition, and I'm sure he'll be really pleased as well. And as it has taken a long time to come, the science is obviously, don't know it in depth, but I can see the science is moving very quickly. So hopefully it's taken us a long time, but we've missed some of the science that hasn't quite got it right, and we're getting there now. One of the things that Councillor Field mentioned, and I really hope this does happen, is the retrofitting of some of our properties in this city, ones that are particularly in bad way for damp and mould, the old concrete buildings, because they really need looking at. I've been in properties that they say it meets EPCC, we're not going to do any retrofitting on it because it's abiding by the law, and the concrete floors are just black coming up. So it's very sad for residents. One thing related to climate change is the flooding. So hopefully through this strategy, one of the priorities would be to update our flooding work with the county and the other districts and bring those documents up to date, and particularly for the residents that are vulnerable for flooding in this city, to make sure that work takes priority, because that is really damaging for the life of people here and now in our city. But brilliant document, and alongside it, we're not only going to be hopefully changing things and making our targets get nearer to zero, we're going to be living in a better place. We're going to be seeing more trees and more greenery. So I think it's really good work. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stephanie Chambers. Any more debate? Oh, Councillor Hilton, please.
Yeah, well, it's really good to see that we're probably getting an agreement on a policy document, and it is a good document, and I think it's really important that we do everything in our powers to ensure that the environment in Gloucester continues to improve, that we continue to reduce the carbon footprint of our community, and we enhance the biodiversity of our city as well. On the issues of bus passes, I got one. I used it today. I used it today. I went out to Long Levens and I walked back in delivering my leaflet along Cheltenham Road. It was a good 2 hours exercise and I enjoyed it. Councillor Pullen mentions the Labour group proposing the climate emergency motion and getting it through. One of the things I do want to see, though, is the Labour government giving this council more support and the people of this city more support in dealing with the carbon reduction plan. And it is a good plan, and it does make it clear in the amendments that we need to make sure that we can fund things to do. And what we don't want to do is fund things that then cost the current population additional money. What we need to do is fund things which we know not only reduces the carbon footprint, but also reduces the cost of that action as well. And that's one of the most important things. On electric generation, again, we're going to see the carbon footprint reduced if we get to the point where all our energy that we have in the UK is not from fossil fuels. At the moment it is. So if we can get the nuclear power stations operational, if we can get the more wind farms, more other energy, micro energy generation, those things, that will be really good. Again, retrofitting, I mean, Stephanie mentioned about the state of a number of the concrete houses. Most of those, of course, are owned by Gloucester City Homes, which the former administration was very keen to dispose of. They're now completely under their control. Again, though, the Labour government can help us, and the MP can help us by securing funding for Gloucester City Homes and for other registered social landlords who've got old housing stock that needs to be retrofitted, to provide them with the cash to do it, because not only will it help improve those properties, it will probably also save people money that are living in those properties. But that is not something that this council can afford. We need to also remember, currently, under the current model, Gloucestershire County Council is responsible for bus stops, for bus public transport, for cycle routes, and although we can see the main cycle route being created between Cheltenham and Gloucester, it will go as far as Stroud and up to Bishop's Cleeve. So things like that are responsibility of the county council, so we need to work well with them. But we can't take that responsibility on. They need to take on the responsibility of improving the way people get to and from places. I'm one that spends quite a lot of my time I don't use my car more than about 3,000 miles a year. Most of the time, it's either on public transport, on trains, or on foot. We could all do more of that. And I got about 10,000 steps in today, Madam Mayor. And that's not too, and that's quite low today. I've got 20,000 on Monday.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Is there any?
That's Councillor Field now, I think.
No further debate. So I do beg your pardon. Councillor Miller.
I'm not too sure whether this is relevant, but I'd just like to point out that you, Councillor Hilton, said that hopefully we'll get money for housing, and yet with Podsmead regeneration, we've lost that. I mean, Podsmead regeneration had money towards it, and apparently it's not happening. Perhaps Councillor Pullen can support me here, or has more details. Podsmead regeneration, sorry.
I can just come back on that point, is that the Podsmead proposal is currently being considered by the Development Control team. They will present a report to the Planning Committee. The funding that GCH has is still there. It's still there, but we need to see how that planning application is done. I mean, if you look at the planning permission for Clapham Court, that was refused, and good grounds for refused, and I supported that. But I've seen the new plan, which
Thank you,
is very good and a great improvement. But
thank you for explaining.
And we're going to come back to Councillor Field now for his closing speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And it's really heartening to hear from members in this chamber that there seems to be broad support for this strategy. I do take on board Councillor Pullen's remarks about the speed with which you're doing it, but I do think it's important to get it right, and we have to move as fast as we reasonably can whilst getting it absolutely right. Of course, you know, I've only been directly involved with this for a year now, or not even a year quite, and we had a full council approval of this strategy in March 2024. Then we had PERDA, then we had the local elections, then no sooner we had that, then we had a general election, and then we had the summer, and we didn't want to lose the input of the schools by doing the consultation over the summer holidays. So we did it in September to November 2024, and we still didn't hear from the schools. So unfortunately, consultation and engagement is sometimes really difficult, as Councillor Jones was alluding to. You know, we try our very best. We had something like 15,000 impressions of getting it out online, and of that we had a 2.38%, I think it was, engagement rate. So, which is good, but it could be better. So we're going to keep our foot on the gas, as a former cabinet member used to say. I do, though, think that Gloucester has good ambition on climate change, because we are actually aiming to be carbon neutral as a city council, if we still exist, by 2030. And then as a district, we want to be carbon neutral by 2045. Now, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, on their 1.5 degrees report, said that 2045 is the mid-confidence threshold, 2040 is the high confidence threshold, and 2050 is the low. So actually we are aiming to be 5 years ahead of the government and the national targets on that. So we are pushing forward. I'm working as hard as I can, you know, and taking all ideas on board. My door is always open to people who are polite to me, and I will happily talk about climate change until the cows come home, as Councillor Jones has already found out this evening. So, you know, keep those ideas coming. We're going to get approval of this, I'm very, very confident. The recommendations are to approve the amendments. Then the strategy can be published, I think tonight, but I don't know whether that's entirely accurate. But then the plan can be implemented. We can look at a list of projects and do the ones that we think we can deliver quickly and cheaply. And then, you know, we'll have to look at some of the other ones that might cost a bit more to do. So I would hope that we're going to get unanimous vote for this strategy, and I'm very pleased about that.
Thank you, Councillor Field. We're now going to go to the vote. So if all those in favour could raise their hand, please. Okay. All those against? Any abstentions? Then I think we can say that that motion is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. We're now moving on to item 13, the notices of motion, proposed by Councillor Chambers de Bus and seconded by Councillor James, please. Councillor Chambers de Bus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not going to just read this whole thing because I'm sure you've had the opportunity and it's quite self-explanatory. Some time ago, when we first heard that there was going to be the option for councils to raise the fines for fly tipping to a maximum of £1,000, we wanted to bring a motion about readying the systems here at the council to be able to implement that as soon as it came in. But we weren't allowed to bring that motion because it wasn't legislation and there was the toing and froing. So here we are now with our motion. We can now raise fines to £1,000 for fly tipping. I know that there's arguments for not doing it in that will people actually pay the fine. However, I think we need to bear in mind that the Forest of Dean, Stroud, Cheltenham and the Cotswolds have all raised their fines to a maximum of £1,000. I'm unsure about Tewkesbury. I couldn't find the information on that. So my concern is that if we don't raise the fine to a maximum of £1,000, we are inviting people to risk fly tipping here rather than the other districts. Raising fines to £1,000 is also going to do one of two things. It's either going to put people off fly tipping here in Gloucester, which will mean that we have less of a problem, which I'm sure we will all agree would be fantastic. Or if people continue to fly tip with the new cameras that were agreed, it will mean hopefully we will be able to catch more people, and the money that we generate from those fines, bearing in mind we were quite high in the ratings of councils that fined people for fly tipping last time, it should help pay for those cameras and for the operators and therefore take a bit of the financial strain off the council. So the motion is that the council raises the fine for fly tipping to a maximum of £1,000 in line with current legislation from current £400. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers de Bus. Your seconder is Councillor James. Would you like to speak now or reserve the right?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll reserve the right.
Thank you. Okay. So we move on now to debate. Councillor Andy Lewis, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Oh, Tree, I'm glad you're back in here, darling. But this is something that should have happened a long, long time ago. And I don't think £1,000 enough. Really don't. I think it should be a lot more because they're just damaging our city for us. Yeah, the cameras be a great help. Let's get them, let's find them. But you know what it'll be? It'll be £1 a month or something like that we'll get in. Because they'll be the ones who can't afford it. They can't afford. They can drive to where they are and dump it. They can't just go to the tip and put it there. I never understood it, whatever. But this will hopefully the ones who are on the balance of whether they're going to be behaving themselves or not, and they suddenly think, oh, we've got some extra cameras and whatever, I'd better take it down a tip. Hopefully that'll happen. But the ne'er-do-wells in this wonderful city of ours will just carry on doing it, and hopefully we can catch more and more and fine them. I personally would take the vehicles off them. I think it's ridiculous that they should just come and just damage our city. I just think it's awful The rest of us have to abide by the rules. Why can't they? Hopefully we can catch a lot of them and get some money out of them and have it all ring fenced and do them again. So, yeah, tree, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Stephanie Chambers, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for this motion. I too am fully in support of this of these fines. I just do need to say that we do need to be careful, because fining the people that are really doing the criminal act is definitely the way to go. But alongside that, we need to help people be educated on their responsibility as residents of this city. So we need to give I would really like to see some education go alongside this, some proactive publications on what a resident should do in seeing the card that the companies need to provide if they're taking away the waste. Because we can fine somebody £1,000 and the culprit should be fined, but the legislation allows for the resident to be fined. And there does need to be some overall responsibility, but let's make sure that the residents know what their responsibility is before we start slapping these fines on them. And as I've said before, and I'll say again, I think that we need more oversight of the enforcement action of this council. It needs to have an oversight, overview and scrutiny, or there needs to be biannual reports I'd like to see of the enforcement action that's undertaken by this council. It happens in other councils, it happens in the CPS. There needs to be oversight of this area where we can fine people, take people to court and criminally prosecute them. And then the last point I'd like to make is the recovery, that we do active recovery and we don't just fine people and let them sit. You know, we really chase this money down. For the people that can pay, we get that money off them and they understand the consequences of littering and destroying our city.
Thank you, Councillor Stephanie Chambers. Is there any more?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Sharon. Councillor Hilton, please.
I pressed the right button. I gather my name was, Declan's name was coming up earlier on the screen. Can I just say that we will be supporting this motion because it's worth considering the issue. It does ask for Cabinet to consider it and we're going to need to look at it in detail. I did ask the same sort of question a couple of months ago when I saw the press article about the Forester Dean and asked about it. And the concern was that the fixed penalty notices at 400 quid get paid by people and it works. The issue is when you push it up to 1,000 is whether they don't pay it and we then need to take them to court, which will cost the council additional money. And then if they are requested by the court to pay over a period of time, that money would go to the government rather than the Gloucester City Council. So there's an issue about the finances of it. But we do need to look at it properly and to consider all the issues, because having fly tipping happening in our city, it really is an environmental crime, and it's irresponsible of the people that do it. You know, Hempstead Recycling Centre is there for you to take any bits of furniture, old bits. If you're moving out, you can take a few items to the recycling centre at Hempstead and dispose of your items in a proper way, and it doesn't cost you a penny. All you've got to do is book it online and you go there. And that's what I've done a number of times. And I don't understand why others don't do it. There's just some people either just too lazy to do it, or they just don't care about the environmental crime that they're handing down to the community that lives next door to them. Often it's people that are in properties that maybe short-term rents who just think that the easy way when they're moving out is to just dump it in the street and the council will pick it up. We do have the advantage if they leave things in the waste that they've dumped, identifying who they are, we get them. And if we do know that if there's a hot spot, you know, we've agreed at council to provide additional cameras, and we've got a team that are there trying to resolve it. So we just need to look at it properly and make sure that we don't do something that might not necessarily be the wisest move. You could say that a fixed penalty notice of £400 was the standard charge, but somebody that's done it for the second time, £1,000 straight away. So, but there are issues about it. We just need to look at it properly, and that's what the motion is asking us to do. We just got to make sure we get it and we stamp on this situation and make sure we reduce the number of fly tips that we see in our lovely city.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Thank you. Any further debate? Oh, Councillor Field.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief because Councillor Hilton's just stolen most of my points anyway. But I do want to say that I welcome this motion. You know, on the face of it, it's very good. We are very happy to look at this and report back. I do have a concern about raising it instantly to 1,000. I think my officers are telling me that anecdotally, what they find down the street is that a fine of £400 will usually get paid, and a fine of £1,000, the perpetrator will usually not pay that. They would probably go to court, and then we don't get the money. So you've got, on the one hand, the revenue stream that comes to this council from a fast payment of a £400. We don't get the money at the end of it. What I would like to see is a change in legislation, and I believe that Richard Cook oh, it's gone off. There. Stick with the, you know, trying to enforce these fines as best we can. I would favour perhaps having a £400 fine, as Councillor Hilton said, for the majority of cases, and then having £1,000, you know, as a sort of last resort for persistent offenders. Very happy to hear ideas, and we will be happy to report back and on our findings. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Field. Any further debate? So we're now going to move to the closing speeches. Councillor James, would you like to give your closing speech, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, I'll keep it brief because I think the main points have been covered. But I was really upset the other day to walk a mile in this city from my workplace to the doctors on Stroud Road, and I went past 3 serious pieces of fly tipping. It really is a scourge on our city streets. So I think bringing the policing of this back in-house means, as Councillor Chambers said, that we will have people within the City Council who can go into schools, who can educate the next generation, who are much more environmentally and climate aware than we are in the main. So hopefully it will be a vanishing problem as they grow up and take more responsibility. But in the meantime, I think a larger fine has got to deter people. But I hear what people are saying with regards to whether that fine would be paid and whether we would get the revenue. Can I suggest that we go to the other 4 councils that have already increased their fines and see what their experience is going forward, and take that into account when we make this decision? So I think everybody's broadly in agreement, but I do urge you all to support the motion, please.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Chambers de Bus, would you like to deliver your closing speech on this, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, thank you all for listening to that. And, you know, I know that we all feel exactly the same way about fly tipping because it's vile. And, you know, I fully get about the fact that £400 is more likely to be paid by some people than 1,000. But if you do actually look at what the other councils are doing, some of them have got quite an interesting way of doing it, in that £1,000 is now the maximum fine rather than the £400. However, a lot of them work in a tiered way. So, as you were saying, first offence maybe £400, second offence you get whacked with the whole lot. Or depending on the size or the type of fly tip. So I'm just really pleased that it does seem that people are supportive in having a bit of a look at how we might be able to make this work for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers-Dubus. So we're now going to vote on the motion. All those in favour? All those against? I think that looks like a unanimous vote. So the motion is carried. Thank you. So we now move on to our final item of this evening. And this is proposed by Councillor Stephanie Chambers and seconded by Councillor Pullen. Councillor Stephanie Chambers, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Conservative group and the Labour group felt it was important to bring this to Council today to debate. I'll go into a little bit of background later on, but let me make it clear, because it has been said, but the Conservative group put through two very minor amendments to the corporate plan. It was an extra 19 words. The first one did not remove investigating any abandoned buildings for development into housing. It just said investigate all suitable sites and abandoned buildings within our city. We wanted to be an agile council and not to exclude any area within our city where we could develop abandoned buildings into much needed housing for our residents and growing city. We did not want to ignore Colwell School that's been empty for my councillor, Saj Patel. He's not here today, my fellow councillor. He would know the exact figures, but I would guess at 14 years or something like that. It attracts antisocial behaviour, fly tipping, arson attacks. These are just a few that I'm aware of recently, well, in the last few years. So we don't want to ignore the huge areas in Barnwood that are becoming available and any other part of our city. If there's an abandoned building, this council should look at it for housing. This administration took over with some ready-to-go opportunities to create some great housing within the city. There's St Oswald's, which Councillor Gravel's worked hard to get £2 million to prepare the contaminated land ready for building. The Railway Triangle, Snow Capel, a development of 75% affordable housing. We submitted the Greyfriars application. These are ready to go. The Cabinet Member for Planning recently agreed that your administration supports all regeneration around the city. So why you are refusing to include the request by Labour to continue with the progress of millions of pounds already spent so far in the regeneration of Posmead and to continue to investigate ways to regenerate Mathen, I'm confused. I've seen firsthand the terrible conditions with damp and mould across these old concrete buildings, and the advice is always that very little could be done because of the type of build. They need regeneration, however that looks, however innovative that can be, and new methods of construction and retrofitting, as the Cabinet Member for Environment said earlier today. What are you planning to retrofit if it's not the properties in Matson and Posmead? The previous MP, Richard Graham, managed to get £50 million of this council's housing debt removed with the housing transfer, which had cross-party support. So the Liberal Democrats were supportive of that as well. Properties that supposedly already meet the EPC requirements are full of damp and mould. I've walked around them and been poured from resident, no, come and see my house, come and see mine. They've got all these things collecting the damp in the buildings. The floors are just concrete and black. And this one already meets its EPC requirements and isn't on the list to be done. You cannot abandon these properties and these residents of our city. And I believe Councillor Miller may be referring to the fact earlier today that you're removing this from the corporate plan. Years of work being done, progress being made, and now just being thrown to the wind. Small children living in substandard properties. Whilst your main priority that you refuse to have the word taken out of the corporate plan is Spread Eagle Court. I agree it's an eyesore. I agree it needs work done to it. I agree the residents of Kingsholm regularly discuss it in the WhatsApp group. But there are other priorities before that. We don't own those buildings. We shouldn't be threatening business owners of our cities. Well, we sit on abandoned properties. We sit on the fleece and we don't do anything about that. There's plenty of work to be done on our own properties and we need to get our house in order before we start bullying people into doing theirs. We're a council in no overall control. For the leader to have removed the corporate plan from the agenda in January because he didn't like what the opposition party's opinions were and refused to hear our debate was really very disappointing and undemocratic. The leader stated earlier today when answering questions, "I want to see" when discussing devolution. And there were some mumbles from the group in the back, the residents in the back. What about the residents? Yes, it is about the residents of our city, not what we want to personally see. We need to be doing what's best for them. And the corporate plan, whilst it's good to look at Spread Eagle Court and all the other buildings, particularly the buildings we own, and the ready-to-go applications that can hopefully get planning and build the houses, proper good houses that our city needs, that's where our priorities should lie. We just want an inclusive look at our whole city and not to leave it on... sorry, I know I'm out of time, but I'll just finish off really quickly. The administration have a duty to consider the needs of all the communities in this city, and I hope you can do that.
Thank you, Councillor Stephanie Chambers. And now we come to Councillor Pullen as seconder. Would you like to speak now or reserve the right?
I'll reserve the right, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have an amendment.
So who's going to move that?
We have an amendment from the Liberal Democrat group, so who will be moving that? Thank you, Councillor Hilton. And do you have a seconder?
I'll move it.
Okay.
When we got to the City Council meeting to discuss the corporate plan, there were some amendments there which were conflicting, and that was the reason why I pulled it at that stage. And I did make it clear that we would bring it back once we've had proper discussions with all the group leaders about the corporate plan to try and get the text right so that there isn't some anomalies put into it. So far, I've had a meeting with Councillor Pullen earlier this week, and we had some discussions about the corporate plan. We've been trying to get a meeting with the Conservative group leader, and I'll also want to talk to the Community Independent group leader to bring back the corporate plan. That was always the objective. The amendment suggests that we bring it back at the annual council meeting on the 19th of May. That's a particularly good day to bring the corporate plan back because it's all in our diary. We all know the 19th of May is the Mayor Megan and the annual council meeting, and there'll be no other real business on the agenda other than setting up the committees, appointing the new mayor, and then in the evening we can actually discuss the corporate plan properly. Now, the big issue that concerned me was the 11th hour amendment from the Conservative group on particular calls about identifying particular sites that would be useful for housing, such as, and it was not about an exclusive group of properties, but 3 of the sites were St Oswald's site, nearly 300 houses, where we've got £2 million of brownfield land. The Whitefriars project, 32, 36 properties, most that will be built there next to the forum. Again, we've got, I think, about £400,000 or £500,000 of brownfield land. And also Wessex House, again, where we've got about £700,000. These are all city council policies. And the point about a corporate plan, it's the top priorities. It's not, it doesn't mean you have to put everything in there. It's about the top priorities for an administration to move forward. And we've already made a decision that we're moving forward. We want to see Spread Eagle Court saved. It's right next to, in Northgate Street. There's a lot of criticisms about the state of Northgate Street. I've already had a meeting this week with the new owners of the Wilkinson store, or last week. So we're looking at that area, and that's what the master planning is going to do. It's going to identify all those sites so that we can actually move plans forward, and we've identified where we can do. The Colwell Centre and the St Stephen's sites, well, I agreed to include those, with the Labour group. But the Tory amendment was going to withdraw those sites from there. It's about identifying sites that are important and moving forward. It also, when we came to the Podsmead one, we've explained this, that we're at the point of, it was as identifying the project, we are at the point of the planning committee making a decision. And therefore, it needs to be, we identified and said that we would look at working with registered social landlords to develop regeneration projects. But identifying this particular one, particularly for members of this council, is if you're sitting on the planning committee, you've already prejudged the planning application, and that is not right. That, yes, you are. You're in danger of prejudging it. But you're in danger of prejudging it, and I want to carry on, Madam Mayor.
Just stop for a moment, Councillor Hilton. A point of order.
Stop the clock, Danny.
Stop the clock. Thank you. Councillor Stephanie Chambers. I will accept and note that as a personal explanation. Thank you. Councillor Hilton, you may continue.
My personal explanation is it was actually identifying this particular project as being critical to the point where it had to be delivered. The other one is Matson. There isn't a scheme for Matson, but if a scheme for Matson does come forward, we'll deal with it properly and deliver it. Similarly, we didn't mention the issue about Clapham Court. That is a regeneration project. We haven't mentioned that in the corporate plan, but we know that Gloucester City Homes, they had refusal on their first application. We know they have a further application and they want to speak to me as the leader with the head of place. We're going to have a meeting with them to see about that. But so there's a whole load of projects that we want to deliver. The corporate plan is a high-level focus action plan. It doesn't need to include everything or business as usual, or frankly, items that we've already delivered. And some of the, for an example, one of the amendments in there was about the CCTV cameras. We agreed that in the budget. It didn't need a corporate plan proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Do you have a seconder, please? Councillor Hyman, thank you very much. Do you wish to speak now or reserve the right, please?
I'll be brief because Councillor Hilton has basically said everything that needed to be said. But I don't see why we need an extraordinary meeting of the council with all the fuss and bother we have to go to organise it. It's not necessary because everything's been gone through here. So I think having it being brought on the 19th of May would be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hyman. Is the amendment accepted by the mover? It is not. Okay. So now we need to debate the amendment, please. Who would like to start? Councillor Lewis, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This corporate plan was put forward in January, so it's not, so we've not known it's coming or whatever. Now, the point that we've got is the fact that the corporate plan is very good. Don't get me wrong. Like it, love it, whatever. But it's too specific and it doesn't deal with the rest of the city. It's very specific on certain areas. All right? Now, and in Councillor Hyman's word, it isn't a fuss and bother. If it needs to be done, it needs to be done. And it can be done. And we've been hanging around and messing about since you withdrew it. It's from January. So we had to bring this forward because otherwise you weren't going to bother. Or you'd do it, should we say, after an election. That's the problem we got. You can keep in what you want, don't do what you want, but we need it done ASAP because this is just fiddling and faffing around. And it's better if it includes everywhere by that one word, all, not specifics. You can bring forward and complete whatever you like beforehand. Then you can put it in your spotlights and all the rest of it. Whoopee-doo. But we cannot have you saying that the rest of the city doesn't come into it. All right, so we're just changing that word. Was it 11 words or something? Or
19.
19, sorry. I'm very bad at maths. That just say it incorporates all that's suitable in the city. It's not rocket science, and don't be so precious over certain ones. Just let it go, and we'll have it as soon as we can. I'm sure Terry will go into probably greater detail, but yeah, I told you on that night at the time, don't be so precious over the odd word, but we were precious over the fact that we wanted to include the rest of the city. That is all.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Wilson, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Speaking to actually, I remember when we first formed administration, I remember pointing out it wouldn't be great if we could all work together, and we sort of seem to have united Labour and the Tories together, which is something, I suppose. Yeah, no, well, I wouldn't quite put it that way. But for sheer practicality purposes, I think the annual general meeting is a good time to do it. And it's also quite symbolic as well. It's the end of one civic year, the start of another one, sort of fresh broom, if you like. There isn't much, it's quite a nice day. We will have the mayor making, nothing much else happens. So it would be the perfect time to do it. Everybody has it in their diaries. And I would have thought that having an extraordinary meeting would carry some extra cost as well. So I think that would be, it's a reasonable amendment, and I think that's what we should go for. And I also think that between us, we can come up with an agreed solution. Maybe we all sort of, it's not a situation that we're used to. So we've got a bit more experience now. I reckon that the corporate plan Mark II will be, I think we can come together and produce something that we can all agree to.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Is there any more debate on the amendment, please? Councillor Stephanie Chambers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this amendment, this was brought in January, as Andy said. The point that you just pulled it on that evening because we would not agree with you, you weren't willing to debate, is seriously undemocratic. And now to kick it down the road even further is even less democratic. And this cannot happen in our council. We need to be having open and clear debates. Now, I made it very clear when I come to Cabinet and you said, oh no, when we can agree something, I'll bring it back to council. This is where we do that agreement, not behind closed doors. I would have met you out of courtesy, but I explained to you I had an accident and couldn't attend. However, I was not willing to do that behind closed doors. I made that very clear to you. So I do think this is electioneering and politically delaying till after the elections, whether you don't have time now because you're busy, I don't know, but we need to make time to make sure this corporate plan is dealt with, not in a fresh start in a new year, in this year, in your first year, you show the electorate what your corporate plan is.
Thank you, Councillor Stephanie Chambers. Any other debate? Oh, Councillor Hill. Oh, okay. Any further debate on the amendment? So we're now going to vote on the amendment. All those in favour?
Yep, okay.
All those against, please.
That's 15 for, 14 against. The amendment is carried.
The amendment is carried. So the amendment now becomes the substantive motion.
Is there any further debate on it?
Is there any further debate on it? Councillor Pullen.
I assume there is no other further debate, in which case I will sum up and second the motion. This motion actually isn't about the content of the plan. This motion is about process, about democratic process. Although I am grateful to Councillor Stephanie Chambers and to Councillor Hilton for going into some of that detail, but that isn't actually the purpose of this motion. Now look, the corporate plan may not be a statutory document, but it's an absolutely vital document that fashions the future development of this city and the services people can expect. And had the leader not pulled the motion, the plan back in January, for whatever reason, we wouldn't have to bring this motion through now, would we? There are 39 members of this council, and it's absolutely right that 39 members are able to debate this corporate plan as we all represent people in this city. We're not here for ourselves. So can I suggest in future we do something, or the leader does things differently? Rather than develop his own plans, that he should first meet with opposition leaders when something is on the table, so that you can find out what opposition leaders' plans and priorities and ideas are for that particular issue, whatever that may be. That is called collaborative and cooperative working. Something that the leader talks about, but failed to deliver. And I really think, Councillor Hilton, you need to walk the talk. So, going forward, you need to think genuinely about how you work collaboratively and cooperatively with all other groups in this city. If you don't do that, the sort of issue and the sort of problem that we're facing now will be repeated over and over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pullen. So, Councillor Stephanie Chambers now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sure everybody would like to get home and finish what we're doing today, so I've got nothing else to say, but just to echo what Terry says, we want to work together and we want to do things in a democratic and transparent way, so please take note of that.
Thank you, Councillor Stephanie Chambers. Councillor Hilton, please respond.
Just a quick comment. Collaborative working means not going into a meeting and insisting that you have red lines where you're not prepared to budge at all, which is what we had with the Labour group, and we've had with the Labour group since. There were 53 amendments. In other words, the Labour Party manifesto completely. And there was a number of issues where we took on board and amended them and everything else. The Conservative amendment happened right at the last minute. I did try to talk to the leader of the Conservative group to try and see if we could come to an agreement on the phrasing of that one clause, to try and get an agreement. She wouldn't agree to me. She wouldn't allow me to ignore my attempts to talk to her about it, which is why, in the end, I said, I've had enough. I'm going to pull the report until we've had proper meetings. I've tried. We had one, you couldn't make it, fair enough, but we tried this Monday when we said we would meet, and we kept trying to get hold of you, and we couldn't get feedback from you when we could have a meeting to discuss the corporate plan. It's about making sure that it's a readable document, an actionable document, and that things in there are that we can defend as the administration, and you can ask the questions on it. It's no good having something forced upon us, which we've said to you is not acceptable to the administration. And we've conceded a lot of stuff in the corporate plan. You can see the changes there. The Labour group had all those changes there. And we talk about getting it done. Let's remember, in 2016, at this point in time, the Conservative corporate plan didn't arrive until September. So I'm quite happy to try and get that sorted by the annual council meeting. And we do need to have that meeting so we can go through the issues. The point about it is that your amendment was not only taking out our proposals, I think it was taking out Terry's, or it was leaving Terry's in. So we ended up with a thing that the two Labour identified sites were in the corporate plan. The 4 identified sites, which were 3 of them were Conservative policy, were removed, and we just couldn't understand the logic and explain it. So it's just a matter of getting an agreement on this. And it's no good just saying that you're going to just demand and would refuse to budge when we've already conceded. The report I sent to Terry the other day had a whole load of green highlighted issues. These were all amendments we'd agreed with the Labour group. We still wasn't satisfied. But you still wasn't satisfied. And whenever I asked him, could he agree this or with that, I can't tell you. I've got to go back to my group. Typical trade union
Councillor
negotiation
Hilton, I'm
tactic.
sorry, that
I
is
can't
timer.
agree anything. Well,
Councillor Hilton.
when you have meetings with me, you can talk about them. And we did
Councillor
have
Hilton,
private,
thank you.
Yeah, we did have private meetings about the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Thank you. There was some confusion earlier, but I'm going to give Councillor Stephanie Chambers the chance to come back if she would like to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, you're discussing things saying what would have happened is we would have debated these issues. That would have been the process. And that is the process. And I really enjoy debating in this room because I listen to people and sometimes we change our mind and we have discussions and that's how we do. We do things as a group. I certainly don't dictate and Andy doesn't dictate. We work as a group just like the Labour Party do. So I think it's not fair what you're saying. I did not take anything out. You could have included all your plans that you wanted to do. We were just saying, don't ignore any other properties around this city. That was it. We took nothing out. Nope, there was no agreement to that clause. Shh. I'll leave it there, Madam Mayor.
Very briefly, I'll let Councillor Pullen say something and then we will be going to the vote.
Can I propose that we ask the question, that we go to the vote, please, Madam Mayor?
Absolutely, Councillor Pullen. So we are now going to go to the vote on the motion as amended. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So all those in favour? All those against?
Abstentions?
Abstentions?
Okay, that's carried.
Okay, that is carried. Thank you very much. I think that concludes our business at this meeting. Thank you all for your contributions and I look forward to seeing you in May. Good night, everyone.